Alright, we're picking it up here. We're going to be using this visual aid here to again be explaining some of the authentic application now with the training methods from the Iron Body Kung Fu or Iron Body conditionings. So this visual aid, this is a poster. It's a basic striking points poster that's commonly used in arts like Shotokan, Okinawan karate, different types of karate. It's very generic. So the first one we have is the four fist, in which you're punching like this, okay, and you have to hit with these first two knuckles, and you're making that flat. So these 2 points are your impact point. Very rarely would you hit with one knuckle, okay? And again, it's not like this, guys. They lock it in like that. This is a much better structure because you're supporting it with the thumb. And if you condition your thumb like they do in the Weichi-Ryu, it's a much more effective structure to form that single knuckle fist. So that's just again, we're deviating already. So the way to hit with that particular fist formation is in a relaxed fashion, in which you're throwing your hand in front of your center of gravity. So you have to align those two beads, those 2 points, with the specific vulnerable target area that you're going to hit. Common area for hitting would be in here underneath the left breast into the heart. It'd be like a heart stealing or heart piercing punch, or the solar plexus, or anywhere on the face, anywhere it's going to be soft. Again, I want to reiterate, what you're going to do is you're going to hit soft targets with hard, dense weapon structures or sharp weapon structures. Meaning you're going to be projecting into or through the target. Whereas with a hard target area, you would use something soft, like an open hand strike. And then we have different back fists. Again, they're showing these 2 knuckles here. To do that, you would have to use a rolling motion like this. And again, it's going to come down to you hitting solid objects or different types of punching bags to fully discover the structure behind that. But what you're going to find with these different karate style and kung fu style punches is when you build your shoulders and you build your body, that support structure behind that punch, when you're throwing that hand out there, it's going to be completely relaxed. So the bigger you build your body, the stronger you get, the harder you're going to be able to hit, because there won't be that antagonistic pullback with that opposing muscle group. Again, you want to learn how to hit through the target, okay? You want to penetrate into the target. There's different bottom fists, okay? That's the next one, would be a bottom fist like this, all right? And again, that's something where when you squeeze a fist, it's not necessarily an Iron Body tactic anymore, because you're not relaxed. There's less bone exposure. You're hitting with the tendons and the muscle when you clench like that. It creates a little bit of a protective pad there, but you're losing power. These are techniques that you have to specifically condition for, guys. The next one is a single or a one knuckle fist. Now they're showing it like this, okay, where he's pinching like that, okay. That, you get more like that than you would like this. But again, when you lock that in, now it's fully supported and you're still pinching, you're still squeezing. Then you have a middle knuckle or middle finger, one knuckle fist, like this. Okay, they call that a cow punch in Kung Fu. Then you have a four knuckle fist like this. Again, to be able to do these, to deploy these different hand formations, you have to specifically condition them through hitting and strengthening exercises. Okay, so something like that, not very practical. Out of this entire chart with like 20 different hand formations, I maybe practice like 4 or 5 of them, honestly. Then you have a ridge hand, in which you're hitting with this portion of the hand in here. Okay, it's padded in here. Okay, and they're hitting like this. All right. Again, it's not something I would try. I would more or less hit with a strike like that or like that with the bone, guys. Again, these are the advantages to practicing the hitting and the conditioning exercises. Then you have the backhand, okay, and they're showing it like this. The problem is with these different types of karate hand formations is at every single time you're not fully relaxed, you're flexing. Okay, that's why an open-handed whip-like strike, you get more power, more velocity than with a punch, because as soon as you start squeezing, you're adding in extraneous muscular contraction. That's going to slow you down and preclude you from generating a full power strike. Something like this, hitting like that with the back of the hand like that, these bones, these metacarpals in here are extremely fragile, guys. You have to be specifically conditioned for that. I would honestly opt, instead of like this, I would opt for something relaxed like this. They call this a wild goose palm. Wild goose palm in praying mantis kung fu. From what I understand, they took it directly from the eagle claw system. Now the next one is a bear paw or a bear hand like this, in which you're hitting like that, okay, like that, like maybe you're grabbing somebody's ear and tearing, that type of motion, or you're trying to cuff them like this, okay, something like that. I wouldn't necessarily hit them like that. I might hit them like this with a palm heel hook, maybe on an upward 30 to 45 degree angle, akin to a shovel hook in boxing. But again, you're not relaxed. When you pull that hand back, as soon as you start to make these hand formations and you do any kind of tensive squeezing at all, you're starting to add in extraneous muscular contraction, which is taking away from your relaxation. The next one would be also, I would use that bear pull more like an eagle claw, where I'd be incising, grabbing and incising with my thumb in a ripping and tearing motion. All right. Then you have what they call a tiger mouth hand, where you're hitting with this portion of the hand here, with this knuckle on a sideways vector like that. Something like that, I would more or less use that in a grappling context, where you grab and you squeeze and then you flex that person against the motion of their joint in a downward pointing motion like that. Okay? Maybe into a double eye poke or double eye gouge. That's a more practical usage. Then the next one would be a 2-finger spear hand. They do it like this, guys. You have to be extremely conditioned to be able to pull this off. I've only met one guy in all my 30 plus years of martial arts that could do this, and he was a very, very skinny Vietnamese guy, but he used to do handstand push-ups on his fingers like this. He could do hundreds of them. This guy, he could pierce through your body like that. This is not somebody you want to mess with. Something like that, again, it's not relaxed. So if you're trying to poke into somebody here like this or here like that and you miss, there is a good chance within a 90 percentile that you're going to break your fingers or jam them, which will then preclude you from squeezing a fist if you have to continue to hit. All right, something like that, I would be more or less, again, relaxed and flick that in there, try to whip that in there. And again, because it's a hand strike, it requires a minimal amount of force. All you have to do is just land even a slight flick to the eyes, and it will have a crippling, deleterious effect on that opponent or assailant. Next one is a single finger or a one finger spear hand, which is like this. All right, now what you're gonna find, again, you wanna direct that in a straight line, okay, this way. So you see when I do it, it's not like this, it's more or less like that. And I'm lining that up again with those 2 points like that when I go to do that. And I'm squeezing, I'm pinching in here like this to give that some kind of a support structure. So you can see the way that I'm doing it, it's not fully protruding out like that. To do it like that, I would have to grab somebody and keep them immobilized to keep them from pulling away from that negative stimuli, which would be pain. Then you have the knife hand, where you're going like this, okay? Again, there's a better option than doing like this. You can hit with a relaxed, like this, a relaxed whipping strike with the forearm, okay? If I wanted to hit with this portion of my hand, I would hold it almost like I'm holding an egg or a ping pong ball, okay? And keep this relaxed. That way I'm exposing more of that bone when I go to do that. And when I condition on the brick or whatever, I want to condition against, initially against something that's going to give to that, like one of these conditioning bags. But eventually, with all these hand formations, I want to move on to hitting surfaces that are either flat or round, because it's going to give me an immediate report. It's a barrier. So if I'm not fully aligned and fully relaxed when I go to do that, there is a possibility of injury. So if you over condition and you're one of these guys who's doing 1,000 hits a day, again, that is an instant where you could become injured. Now, the next one is a spear hand, like this, all right? Now, again, if you just do it like this, you can see it's not flat. You know, this middle finger is projecting out. Now, if I want to do like a spearing thrust, I would fold it like this. You see how I'm doing that? I try to pinch them all together. You see how I'm doing that? And it's pinched. I'm supporting that frame there by doing that. Now, if I want to strike in, like in here where it's soft, or here, I would actually push that up against the wall like this, to a point where like now you can see it's relatively flat. All right? You see how I'm doing that? That's the proper way, guys. Because again, you may not be going straight in like that. That takes an enormous amount of conditioning to be able to pull off. I might be doing it in a hooking motion like that, in here. So after you learn these different, and then you have a palm heel thrust like this. But again, when I pull that back, you can see these muscles in here are starting to contract. And again, the more muscular contraction that I use when I'm doing these different iron body strikes, the less effective they're going to be. And the longer the physical confrontation lasts, you know, I'm going to become tired, okay? So the trick to all this is to be relaxed. Then you have what they call an ox jaw hand, like this, where you're hitting like this or like that, okay? Very similar to a crane or a praying mantis. But again, the crane and the praying mantis, it's relaxed. It's a relaxed whipping strike, okay? That's the difference, guys. All right? So we're talking about a full power, relaxed whipping strike through the target with a full range of motion and an accompanying force impact, that being the equivalent of a report or a form with an accompanying pullback, which would be like a recoil and a reloading type of effect. Then again, now you have an elbow strike. Now, when I squeeze a fist, as they do in karate, to throw that elbow strike, there's going to be somewhat of a muscular contraction here, although there's not too much fibers in here. It's mostly bone. But if I want to expose more of this bone in here, I simply keep my hand loose. when I go to throw these elbows, and it'll expose more bone. So again, when you're hitting, you want to condition the iron body with the bones, guys. Otherwise, you're going to damage your joints, your connective tissues, your skeletal muscular fibers. All right, something you want to know, okay, if you're going to do this. Then you have to learn how to structure your body behind that. Now let's take a look at some of the vulnerable aspects of the human anatomy. We're gonna look at the primary targets first, okay? You have the eyes, the throat, the groin. Those are all soft target areas, guys. And then the knees. And yes, the knee is a primary target. Believe it. If you kick somebody in the knee with a certain amount of pounds per square inch of force, you will disable that person. I can guarantee you that. But it takes training. It's not something that you're going to show, like, let's say somebody who's only taken a basic course. It takes training to be able to pull these things off. All right? Then you have other areas that are less vulnerable that are secondary targets. You have side of the neck in here, the collarbone. You have the solar plexus. Okay. You have the abdomen. All right. The navel itself is very, very vulnerable, especially with a kick with the ball of the foot, like a punching front kick, or what they refer to as a thrusting heel kick. Thrusting heel kick, which would be C on the foot weapon chart. That has the potential to crush somebody's sternum if done on a proper 45-degree angled upward trajectory. Those are all devastating strikes in martial arts, guys. Temple strike, not so much. Again, we're getting into the, aside from the eyes, throat, groin, and knees, we're starting to get into the whole what ifs. Collarbone, vulnerable to be grabbed with that eagle claw. All right, we're struck with some kind of a chopping motion. We're downward, especially a downward elbow strike, any kind of a punching attack. Then you have the armpit, a proper strike to the armpit with a controlling action. Again, the whole key to making these things work is you have to apply a simultaneous controlling action to keep the person from moving away from the strike. That is the whole idea with this, guys. Otherwise, they're going to pull away from that negative stimulus. But if you hit somebody on a proper angle, you can blow their lung out. You can bust these ribs. You might even dislodge their shoulder joint itself. And if you really know what you're doing, you can yank that right out of the joint. Trust me. It's happened to me. I've seen other people do it. It's legit, guys. It's something you can pull off. You might pull somebody on a headbutt and jam them up into a wall, maybe a double eye gouge them and knee them in the groin. Maybe bust their kneecap. And again, you're not even throwing a punch because, again, if you damage your hands during a physical confrontation, it severely inhibits your ability to protect yourself. So I'm going to pause the video and then I'm going to move on to something else. Now, you may not be able to notice, but I have black lines drawn here. There is a triangle going behind you and a triangle going in front of you. This is something for you guys who are training in Chuen Fa, which would be like Chinese boxing or fighting systems, and especially Filipino martial arts, guys. All right? No matter what you do, no matter how good a structure you have, you will always be off balance and vulnerable directly in front of you and directly behind you, which is an argument for why you would not perform an extraneous reaching action off your rear side, which would force you to take a step. Okay, different arts like Aikido, Tai Chi Chuan, traditional jiu-jitsu, anything with locking, swai jiao, chin na, they're predicated upon off-balancing you with a controlling action. So if you off-balance yourself, it makes it that much easier for that person to achieve these moves. You will also be off-balance somewhat on your side and on these angular vectors, which will provide for 8 different directions of off-balancing, which in arts like judo, which is the gentle way, which would be, they refer to it as kazushi, okay? They even have an art, a sub-level art of jiu-jitsu called karate-jutsu, which is the art of off-balancing an opponent. Then you have then you can move along those 8 points as well, which will be like, in karate, I think they refer to it as like tai sabaki. They have a sabaki method. This is something that these full contact karate guys and these judo and jiu-jitsu players train a lot. It's why they are so effective, is they understand how to move you, so to position you into a state where you are vulnerable. Okay, so somebody who has trained in this approach up to this point, you could say in the realm of Chuen Fa or Kung Fu, Chinese martial arts, that they have the quote-unquote 8 points of attack and defense. Alright? That's what this is. So when you're moving, you want to keep your hand in line with your foot, your elbow with your knee, your shoulder with your hip. That prevents off-balancing. Okay? So you move as a unit when you're going to deploy these different hand or foot weapons, whatever iron body approach you're using. Alright, again, we're debunking a lot of the stuff these other guys are doing. It's erroneous. They don't know what they're doing. They don't have the experience. Then we have like Kishin Bu, which would be like 7-star stance, or Kishin, which are like 7 stars. Those are the joints in the body utilized in an accordion effect of contracting and expanding. Okay, that's what your whole Fa Jing is when you release that Jing, that stored kinetic linkage, that kinetic potential, which would be like inertia. Alright? These are scientific terms that I want you guys to familiarize yourself with. So that would be the wrist, elbow, shoulder, center line, which would be the whole length of the spine, hip, knee, ankle. So in order to deliver one of these full power iron body strikes, you have to have your 7 stars in proper alignment. And as a general rule, the only time that you will extend your hand beyond your foot is if you are performing an aggressive attack. Because of the fact that if you leave it out there, as they do in karate erroneously, it becomes an extraneous reaching action. Okay, you're taking your hands away from your face when you do that. Which is another argument for why all you Kung Fu guys need to learn how to box, you need to learn how to kickbox, and you need to learn how to grapple. Alright? Start looking at these different arts like Sabat, Thai boxing, Western boxing, Western kickboxing. Anything where they train full contact, and the penalty is if you make a mistake, you're going to get hit in the face and you're going to pay for it. So they say make him miss and then make him pay for it. Alright? These are different things that if you haven't trained full contact, you would not otherwise know. Alright, this is a difference between a sport variety versus a combat variety. For example, C on the foot weapon chart would be a heel strike. But then when I look where it's vulnerable, it would be the Achilles tendon or the calf. Well, you're not allowed to strike with kicks in judo. So they wrap the leg like this with their major outer reaping throw, which would be a sotogari, whereas in jiu-jitsu, they will actually contact this weak point with a hammering motion of their heel, okay, to jut that person down and negate their height advantage if they are taller than you. Okay, you're talking about a controlling action, maybe bringing the person down and hitting them with some kind of a winding throat shot, some kind of a chop, maybe a relaxed downward elbow, again, to the sternum or the solar plexus. These are all lethal techniques of the martial arts that are not taught in your common variety of McDojo, Taekwondo, or karate-do. Those are sport varieties, guys. Anything with a do on the end of it, like karate-do, that is the way. That is a sport. Where something like karate-jutsu is a combination of striking and grappling methods. All right. And there are different things, which would be like duan-chu, which would be like in Chinese martial arts, a sealing the breath technique, where you're attacking this person's ability to breathe, okay, or you're limiting through maybe a pressuring hold, like maybe a knee on stomach position, or some kind of a smothering tactic. You are limiting their ability to breathe in, all right? There are different wear down tactics. It doesn't have to be an immediately lethal approach. Then there's techniques of duan mai, which would be like dim mak in Cantonese, or like sealing the blood, like you're attacking this person's circulation. All right. In Filipino martial arts, they have different ways of bunis, which would be locking, or dumog, which would be wrestling, in which you are attacking a person's quote-unquote choke points, or different leverage and control points on the body, where you can achieve these kinds of vulnerable strikes, which would normally be any kind of a cavity, anywhere there's like a triangle here, okay, or here, all right, or the groin area, obviously, the pit of the elbow, which would be the baiwan cavity. There are different cavity strikes, which would apply these different hand formations, all right? So, again, this is ultra basic, but the way you would apply this is with a systematic progression of structured basics, a pure efficiency of the fundamental basics, and then conditioning that particular weapon formation with the iron body hitting exercise. So, at some point, you're going to need some kind of you're going to need to learn how to shadow fight with these different things and attack with combination. All right. Very rarely are you going to be able to pull these things off with one strike. All right. In karate, they have that one strike, one kill type of methodology. But, you know, again, in the northern hemisphere here, where people are wearing thick clothing 8 to 9 months out of the year, it's not so practical anymore. People, they train in a gym now. They develop themselves athletically for just physical fitness. So a lot of these things, you know, again, have failed to evolve. And then you're going to need some kind of structured program of katas or forms or Dao Lu, which would be a pre-choreographed, preset routine, okay, to familiarize yourself with how to move the body. Again, there is a reason, you know, these masters, they had the wisdom to organize, you know, these moves in a certain order. There's a reason why this guy was hitting here, 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 you know, because what he's doing is he's activating, opening different meridian channels according to acupuncture theory, because it's not proven, and shutting other things off, guys. All right, so there are 12 meridians in the body, and we'll get into that in the next sequence, and I'll show you some things on the wooden art model. Now we're going to continue here, and I'm going to start showing you guys some of these different meridians, okay? And you're going to find that they're going to be more accessible in certain areas. So this is when somebody's standing like this, okay, almost like a Da Vinci chart. It's called basic anatomical position. This is an open position, guys, okay? So his meridians are all open here. You have center line meridian that goes down and then wraps all the way up, and it continues in a cyclical fashion. All right. Now you have the inside of the arm, the top of the arm going to the thumb, the outside of the arm, the bottom of the arm. Now a lot of these will correspond to the nerves, different nerve clusters, okay, different things like that. Like a nerve cluster where it's vulnerable, they refer to that as like a triple burner in martial arts, okay, in pressure point acupuncture theory, because you have 3 nerves that are overlapping in that instance, and it's a highly vulnerable area to a strike, right? Now, again, these are not even secondary targets. We're talking about tertiary, meaning third of importance targets at this point. You know, this is hypothetical at this point. These are things that you may be able to pull off, but probably not. It may be a waste of your time to train these. You'd be better off just joining a boxing gym and learning how to throw a proper jab. You know, learn a side kick, and just basic moves that are going to get the job done. All right, in combination with a basic program of grapples. Now you have one going down the center, the top of the leg, the outside of the leg, the back of the leg, the inside of the leg. All right. Then you have what is referred to as a relative or relative pathway, which would be inside the appendage, going directly through on a straight line to this point, all the way up into the body. All right. So you can relate this to a dermatome chart used in modern chiropractic. You can relate this to the study of the central nervous system, which would be the brain and the spinal cord. All right, that's your center line, guys. All right, and then a peripheral nervous system in which the nerves are going to the appendages, the arms and the legs, guys. All right, so those right there, those are the 12 common meridians used in acupuncture theory. There are extra meridians that they claim some people have and some people do not have in the calf, in the quadricep. Okay. So the way you would do that is you would align your body to strike these different targets. And keep it in mind, there's going to be a lot of movement involved. There's going to be a range. There's going to be a fluctuation of the ranging itself. So you have to learn how to control the distance. You have to learn how to perform a controlling action, which is really what this drawing back motion here is, where they're pulling the hand back to the waist. Okay, that is what they refer to as a hidden hand move in Chinese martial arts that has crossed over into Korean martial arts, Okinawan, and Japanese martial arts the world over. All right. Now in the next segment, we're going to look at some of these different, I want to educate you guys about some of these different breaking practices, where you can be fooled by people who are of a phony or a fraudulent nature. Alright, the next thing I want to show is just the difference, the fundamental difference between authentic breaking materials versus materials that are not. Okay? Now, keep in mind, there's no right or wrong way. Right? This is just simply my opinion from my experience in training. Okay? This is a patio paver brick. It is extremely dense. It's reinforced with granite chips. Okay, you can see them. The different granite chips in here. Alright? They don't break cleanly, guys. It's going to be, a shattering, shearing type of break. Okay? the shattering break. It's not going to break cleanly. It's not going to shear off like that. All right? So that right there, if you see somebody breaking something and it breaks cleanly in half, chances are it's not reinforced and compressed. Again, you can see the lines here on the side of the bricks. You can see the indentation here. That's from the machine that comes down and stamps that and compresses that. Trust me, I used to make these things. I know what I'm talking about. All right? These are extremely dense. Okay, this is the patio paver slab. This is a larger version of this. Okay, guys? Now, if you see inside when somebody breaks these things, if it's slightly lighter in color, okay, and it has black chips inside, those are cinders, guys. Those are pieces of charcoal. Those are cinder slabs. Almost like a cinder block, okay, but it's a slab. So it looks like this, okay, it appears outwardly to be the same thing, but it doesn't have the grooves like this has from being stamped and compressed and reinforced, okay? These and these are dramatically harder to break. We're talking like 10 times harder to break than a cinder brick or charcoal brick or a cinder slab. Completely different. Okay? If you can break like 3 cinder slabs, you can break probably one of these. It can take up to a year of training just to be able to break one of these. Okay? Now this big boy, this is something completely different. This is thicker than this by about 1/4 of an inch. Similar material. Okay? This is a patio paver slab as well. Okay? It's much denser. It's using a finer material that had been crushed into a powdered form, reconstituted in the stamping process. Now these are not simply, these are different. These are cut. There's a machine that comes down that cuts these. That's what this is. Okay, and again, this here is going to be slightly harder than this, just simply because of the fact that it's thicker. Okay, it has more, it's not necessarily more reinforced, but it has more support to it, guys. To break this will take 1/3 more effort than this, just with that 1/4 of an inch, guys. All right. Then you have other guys that are breaking bricks that have holes in them, and they're you know, if they can turn it on the side and break it like that, okay, that's impressive. I've only seen a few guys do that. I doubt they even train anymore, actually. I doubt they've even taught anybody. And then you have guys that are breaking these clay bricks that are like kiln dried or like sun dried. They're like Chinese bricks, and they're thinner. Like this one here, it would be thinner. It would be like that. And it's a brighter color. It's like orange. Okay, it's like a fire engine orange. Okay, it's kind of been, you know, kind of glossed over. So that's a fundamental difference. Then there are red bricks. They're approximately this thick. Okay, same length, but they're this thick, guys. Those are clay bricks, guys. Again, they're like terracotta almost. They are dramatically easier. They're like 4 times easier to break than one of these. Then you have guys that are doing this, right? They're lifting the brick with one hand and then popping it down with the other hand there is a gap here. There is a kinetic link, a kinetic gap. So when that claps down like that, it's going to shear off at that breaking point. Okay? So you're not really pulverizing it at that point. A true iron hand break is flat, guys. Flat. Alright? It's not a thrusting like that, because again, you can angle that. Okay, and you'll see people, they do it like that, and it'll shear off like that and cut in on an angle, and it'll slide like that. One end will slide off. Alright? In my years of conditioning and training, I've only been able to pull off one break like that with one of these. It's extremely difficult. And even then, it could be argued that maybe there was a small pebble underneath of that, or even a granule of sand. Okay, I'm telling you guys, anything that can make space underneath these makes it easier. So you'll see in karate, when they go to stack these things, they put pencils in between them, up and down the line. What that does is, after you break that first one, you pulverize that first one, it's going to continue to break down the line, almost like tiers, like rungs in a building collapse. Like if you ever watch the way they demolish a building with explosives, they go boom, section by section down the line. It's obvious to tell. True iron body, true iron hand, true iron fist. Okay? They're breaking it straight down, guys, with no space. Okay? It's something completely different. So then you'll see guys they're really making it look easy, and they're breaking like 4 or 5 of these things. They're breaking like 6, 7, even I saw one guy break 8. I would argue that what he's doing is he's using concrete cinder slabs as opposed to the real thing, which will be a concrete reinforced compressed patio paver slab. Completely different. And I've only seen one man break one of these like that. I've only seen one guy able to do that in my 30 plus years of training. So learn to be a skeptic. There are other guys who are making their own paver slabs, and they're not compressed, obviously. They don't have the machinery to do that in their backyard or their garage, right? You have other guys that are making like a cement knockoff of this, which is very, very brittle. And again, if they use more water than they're supposed to, it'll almost flake apart. They're extremely easy to break. There are other guys that are using like plaster of Paris, and they're spray painting them to make them look like this, guys. Do not be fooled. I'm showing you how to recognize the difference. It is a definitive difference. All right? So learn to recognize these frauds and these phonies for what they are. Most of these guys are not in shape. They don't train physically. They're trying to sell you on a gimmick to get you to buy a DVD, get you to buy their books, or ascribe yourself and get indoctrinated into these different lineage cults that they have. And yes, it is a cult. It's bullshit, guys. It's not legit. Most of these guys, they've never been hit in the face before. They don't spar full contact. They're completely untested in training. They're completely untested on the street. Don't believe these guys. I'm telling you. I'm warning you guys against this. All right? And then we have the whole thing with these coconuts. And I said in the first video, these coconuts are extremely dense. It can take 2,400 to 4,800 pounds of applied pounds per square inch of pressure to break these things, to crack them. All right? And what you'll see is a lot of these guys, what they're doing is they're getting it in the husk, and they're carving it out, and they let it dry to a certain point where it's brown in coloration like this. It looks brown, it looks like it's dried, but who are you to tell from a video unless you're holding it in your hand? All right. Other coconuts have seams or sutures on them. Those are good for beginners. But after a while, they get extremely easy to break. But something without the seam, I'm telling you guys, it's very, very difficult to break one of these guys with a whipping strike. You know, so if somebody's making it look real easy, and they're doing it in less than 3 strikes, unless you're there and you see it or they're holding it up close to the camera, you should be extremely skeptical. Okay, so word of warning to you guys regarding these different frauds and these breaking materials, because they will use that to rope you in to take your money for an extended period of time. Meanwhile, you're wondering how these other guys are making all this progress, and you're at a standstill still trying to break 1 or 2 of these things. If you get to a point where you're breaking 3, that's pretty good. Anything beyond that, you ought to be very skeptical. I've only seen one guy who could break 4 or more of these legitly, okay, and prove it. And he trained. This guy trained his ass off. Okay, there are different exercises of learning how to coordinate the body to move it in sync to be able to do that. Different relaxation exercises, different strength development exercises, power development exercises. You're not going to find it in a typical Kung Fu school. I hate to break it to you. That's why they're showing you, if you are training at a Kung Fu school, that's why they're showing you form after form after form. Then you got to do all these different Qigongs, which may not even be legit, just simply to get you to continue to pay money to earn the right to learn the next series of bullshit. Okay? So I want to advise you guys, you know, learn some kickboxing. Familiarize yourself with a program of barbell lifts, grappling, sparring. Train more like a fighter. This is auxiliary. This is of an assisting nature to a regular program of training. So that is the reality to this iron body stuff, and this is what they're not telling you, because if this information gets out, they're going to sell less and less to a point where they might actually have to get a real job. So that's what it is. I hope this is helping you guys, and if you've watched all 3 parts of this series, then you know, thanks for watching. Thanks for your interest. I'm available here for training if you want to come in and take some classes, or if you want to train, that's fine. Just go ahead and get a hold of me. All right.